All right. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Michelle Dang with the Wishful Podcast. I'm here today with Dr. Mouslys LeBlanc. I think I pronounced it right. She goes by Dr. Mo. We are recording on video as well, and I will definitely add the links to that if you want to watch us chat on video. Otherwise, this will all be audio, so you might not see our fun gestures and everything. But anyways, welcome, and I'll call you Dr. Mo because I think it's super cute. Welcome, Dr. Mo. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Dang.
So excited to have you here. Okay, so today's episode, we are going to chat a little bit about self love and acceptance. But before we get into all of that, I definitely want to hear a little bit about your personal journey and why you picked those words and those phrases for today's episode.
I had a complete change of life. I think it was 2015, 2016. And, everything was going well. I was the director of cancer rehab at a major Ivy League institution. We had bought a house. I had a baby several months ago. And, everything seemed to be doing great. And then things started to fall apart in my marriage. And that was when everything changed because once things weren't good at home, all of a sudden things weren't good anywhere else, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was like irritable at work. I mean, I remember the day that I yelled at one of my medical assistants. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the day that I knew that I was totally burned out and out of control and something had to change.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was when I got a coach, a relationship coach who helped me really build the skills to have an amazing marriage and build a life that I love.
How did you decide to get a relationship coach? And kind of want to back up a little bit because just wanted to make a comment that I think in general, and this is, podcast for primarily for all women, it's really challenging for women to really compartmentalize. I find sometimes, if my husband and I are arguing or whatever, he's totally fine. Go to work and have no issues, but I'll go to work and it's like it's simmering in the back of my mind and I'm constantly thinking about it. And then I have a bad day because I've had, bad issues going on with my relationship. So anyways, go on.
I totally think that's true because we as women, we are heartfelt creatures. Like we just feel everything. And men, they're like one track mind. They can only
Yes.
hold one thing at a time. We're
Yes.
the multitaskers. And I think it's the reason why more women deal with burnout because, well, for so many reasons, right?
Hmm.
But there's this sense of mental exhaustion that's
Hmm.
also a part of burnout because even if we're not physically doing everything,
Hmm.
there's the mental exhaustion of having to pay attention like, oh my gosh, does my kid have enough clothes? Do I need to do the laundry? Do I need to go pick up something from the grocery store? This needs to get done, that needs to, like, our minds are always carrying all of these tasks even if we're not physically doing it.
Right.
We are mentally holding the space for those tasks. And so, and the studies that talk about burnout, they really make that distinction that it is the physical burnout and the mental exhaustion and emotional exhaustion that happens with burnout. So,
Right.
yeah, I mean, maybe if we were more simplistic or simple minded, maybe we'd cope better.
Yeah, I hear you. So then talk us through. So you went to a relationship coach. How did you discover a relationship coach as opposed to marriage counseling or therapy or anything like that?
I probably found it the same way that most other people find by Googling in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Was it
Help
life
me
changing?
marriage. And this is what came up.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And what the interesting thing about it is, so as a professional, woman, and I think many women in that category can relate to us that we a lot of times don't want to be vulnerable and ask for help,
Hmm.
but we're really good at giving help, right?
For
As
sure.
physicians, caretakers, like we're always giving help, giving advice, and serving others. And it can be hard to ask for help. So
Hmm.
the reality is I actually didn't hire a relationship coach. That's not how it worked for me.
Hmm.
I actually got an email months later from that same company that I had found online one night. And it was just like, hey, do you want to get help in your marriage and help other people? Yeah, I do. Become a relationship coach.
This reminds me of one
So
of those like
I
late
actually
night ads,
became a
right?
coach.
So you became a coach, but this reminds me when those like when you're up really late at 2 in the morning watching TV and then those ads, like
Oh
late night
yeah,
ads come on and you're like, yeah, I really need that weird 5 pot
exactly.
thing.
That you never use.
Exactly. So you saw that and you decided to become a relationship coach yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the great thing is that in the training to become a relationship coach, you end up getting coached. And so it was a twofer. It
Mhm.
changed my marriage and it gave me the skills to help other women change their marriages.
Great. And so I forgot to mention in the very beginning. So you are a PM&R physician, and but you are also a coach, and you also do energy work, correct?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how you find the balance right now doing all those things.
So, you know what? I like to say that they're all in my medicine bag, and so
Mhm.
that is something that I feel like is my superpower and makes me a really good PM&R doctor. Because with PM&R, it's hard to describe to people what it is because we kind of do a bit of everything. We touch every organ system with the end goal of improving quality of life. And whatever you need, we'll service you. You're having bowel and bladder issues, we'll take care of that. You're having skin issues, we'll take care of that. Muscle, bone, nerve, lymphatics, like we really take care of the whole person, whatever needs to happen for them to have the best quality of life. And so, in the same way, that's how I approach my coaching, that I have all these tools as a physician. I have all these tools as a coach because I'm a relationship coach, but I'm also an NLP coach as well. So I do a lot of mindset and subconscious work with people. And I have a lot of tools that are more in the energy realm, So, like, I do acupressure with people, I do Reiki, I'm a Reiki master. I'm also trained in Akashic Records as a consultant. So, I really have the opportunity to really hear what their problem is
Mhm.
and tune into what they need. And that's the same skill that I use as a physician every day as well. So I know when I used to try to tell people what I did as a doctor, and I think it still holds true now, is that I used to say, I'm a lifestyle architect because I just have a way of knowing, like, okay, this is where you are.
Mhm.
These are the goals that you want. This is where you want to get to. And I just have this way of like really seeing the person and seeing what needs to shift and happen to get them to that goal. And so I just take the same approach in coaching as well.
That's excellent. And I love that analogy. It kind of makes me feel like we're each kind of like a puzzle and you put all the puzzle pieces together with all that you do.
I love that. That's exactly what it is.
And I'd like to find out a little bit, and for a lot of people, we don't really know what energy work exactly means. Can you expand on that a little bit for those of us who aren't sure?
Sure. So, I mean, energy medicine is kind of a catch all phrase for anything that looks at the body from an energy perspective. And let's just say, first of all, like everything is energy, right? Because we could say energies, medicine is way over here, but at the end of the day, it's like the only way that we know that life exists is when we hear that heartbeat on ultrasound,
Mhm.
which is the energy first kicking in,
Mhm.
very early on, right? So that energy is what lets us know that we're alive. It's what allows, as a rehab doctor, I know that to move any muscle, it's really about energy connecting between the nerves and the muscles and the mind, all working together. And so it all happens through energy. In traditional medicine, we tend to discount how much energy affects the person. Whereas in complementary and alternative medicine, such as like acupuncture, Reiki, and different modalities like that, that's where they really focus on that.
Mhm.
Um, and so, I think acupuncture is the most commonly understood type of energy medicine. And what it looks at all the 12 meridians in the
Mhm.
body and how energy flows through that. And we can, based on your symptoms, we can see which meridians, and meridians are pathways of energy, are blocked.
Mhm.
Another way you can look at energy is if you look at the chakra system, and that's like
Mhm.
the 7 basic chakras. And each chakra has a different effect. And so
Mhm.
based again on your symptoms, we can also tell which chakra is having issues and needs to be addressed. And so Reiki will look at that. And then we can also tap into the intuition, which is a little bit different from medicine, from energy medicine, but I kind of consider it in a similar realm of alternative medicine, where we really delve into the subconscious. And
Mhm.
so things like Akashic record reading and doing different NLP concepts really says it's really focused on getting to the root cause. Because
Mhm.
unfortunately, as you know, in medicine, we tend to deal a lot more with the superficial symptoms,
Correct.
but the reality is that a lot of medical issues, in my opinion, arises from undealt with emotional conflicts,
Mhm.
which really emotions are just energy in motion. And so if we can get to the root causes in the subconscious, then we can really deal with the root issues. And so I combine all those different aspects for whatever needs my patients have.
And it's just interesting. It's just a very different way of looking at the whole body. And like you mentioned, in Western medicine, we're just so used to treating the symptoms and, yes, adding a bunch of medications just to kind of get to that ideal number or ideal lab and not really addressing the underlying issues. I mean, you could have two patients with the exact same diagnoses, but be completely different in terms of whatever it is that's underlying. So I think it's just a very different way. And I think that many people nowadays, hopefully there is a shift, I think, with all the new types that or the new fields of medicine that are out there addressing these issues. And it's interesting just because I think that when you talk about Eastern medicine and the meridians and the chi and all that stuff, acupuncture, I mean, it's been around for centuries. And so for a lot of people in who do practice Eastern medicine on the other side of the world, it's stuff that they've known or they've dealt with for a long time, and for us, it's very new. And I think it's just a shift. So I think it's great that you're doing a little bit of everything. Um, and so I want to kind of shift gears a little bit because I know that your topic was self love and acceptance. So I'd like to kind of delve into that a little bit and get some understanding as to why you picked those words.
So I think you did the great transition because because I was going to say, I mean, how I really made that holistic shift was when I realized how self-love was the key to healing.
Mhm.
And as I was going through the coaching program, I was actually coaching my patients too. So I was just like, oh my gosh, this is transforming lives. I got to start using this on my patients. So not only did it change my marriage, it changed me, but it changed how I doctored. And so, I was already the TLC doctor to begin with and had close relationships with my patients. But once I started incorporating coaching skills, it just went so much deeper.
Mhm.
Like patients were telling me so much more of the story, and what I realized in doing the coaching is that I kept having this nagging feeling like there's an elephant in the room. I just feel this elephant in the room. Like, what is this? And I kept
Mhm.
feeling it. It kept coming up over and over and over again with different patients, totally different diagnoses, because I was seeing chronic pain patients, I was seeing cancer patients. Um, and eventually it hit me and I had my aha moment. And I was like, that's it. Because I felt like I was looking into a mirror and
Mhm.
couldn't really understand like what I was really seeing. But what I realized is that, when it's hard to admit it, but when you finally get gut honest with yourself and you can really be real and say, you know what, I don't love and treat myself and value myself the way that I should.
Mhm.
Like once you're able to be honest with yourself about that, then it opens your eyes to see it in other people.
Mhm.
And so that's what opened my eyes. And I realized that the elephant in the room was always self love.
Mhm.
And when I started addressing the issue of self love, instead of prescribing a new medication for their pain, instead of sending them to a new therapist, instead of, whatever else, doing a procedure, instead I said, you know what, before we do anything different, I'm going to guide you on how to create a self-love practice for yourself, which is a self-care practice. I like calling it self-love.
Mhm.
Um, and I'd have them come back working on that and establishing a self-love practice for themselves. And when they'd come back a few weeks later, all of them came back with significantly lower pain levels. Some of them completely, their pain disappeared.
Mhm.
Some of them stopped taking their narcotics. And on top of that, they're
Wow.
like, and I feel so much happier. I'm not arguing with my husband and my kid as much. And by the way, I got a raise at work and a promotion. Like everything in their life really started shifting.
Mhm.
And so that's when I realized the power of self love, that
Mhm.
it's not just affecting our relationship with ourselves, but it affects our relationship with our bodies and our health. It affects our relationship with our partners, and it affects our relationship with our money.
Mhm.
And so when we heal that primary relationship, because that's what I'm all about, getting to the root cause of the issues, it has that ripple effect. And so self love or self care for me is the foundation of all healing. And, I have a book that's coming out soon, and that is a lot of what I talk about in that book about self love being the foundation. And, I always say love is medicine and it starts with you.
For sure. I mean, you can't, that's what they always say. You got to put on your oxygen mask first. So you can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. And the one thing that I remember in a lot of the readings that I have been doing is that, you want to treat yourself like you would treat a good friend. So what would you tell your good friend if your good friend was suffering, And so and that's something that I take with me. And it's really challenging, especially for women, to practice that self-love, self-compassion. And it's something that I personally struggle with as well.
I think it's something that we all struggle with as well. I think if we
Yeah.
have an X gene, we're probably suffering from, if we have two of them. Let's put
Yes.
it like that. But I try to let women know that it's not like a yes or no sort of answer. Like, do you love yourself or do you not? It's really all shades of gray, and we can
Mhm.
always improve our level of self-love and self-compassion. And so um, there's no one that this wouldn't help.
Yeah. And so tell me about the second word that you chose, which was acceptance.
So self-love, in my opinion, is really about just caring for yourself, nurturing yourself, making yourself a priority.
Mhm.
Um, but self-acceptance is having compassion for yourself. It's being willing to be imperfect and love yourself in its imperfectness and despite its imperfection, which can be very difficult for high achieving women because we are, we kind of live in this perfectionist goal. But the reality is that there's no endpoint and you never hit it. And if you have to be perfect to love yourself, then you never do.
Mhm.
And so it's being willing to say that you're not perfect
Mhm.
and be okay with that, and be willing to laugh at yourself and laugh at your imperfections and just say, hey, this didn't quite go the way that I wanted to. I'm not exactly where I'd love to be, but I love who I am and I am grateful for where I am and where how far I've come. Because when we can accept ourselves, that's when we can live at our truest potential.
Mhm.
And that was kind of what I saw a lot of in my patients and in my clients, that in seeing their potential and just talking to them as if they had already achieved their potential, it allowed them to really transcend and really inspire them to greater heights. Because oftentimes we talk down to people's potentials, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. Like we have low expectations, and we focus on people's mistakes, and we focus on their shortcomings and how they're not enough.
Mhm.
But when we can really strive to see their potential for greatness, people always step up to the plate. And in doing so, people stepped up to the plate for themselves. And so that was how people started getting raises, because when you see yourself as worthy,
Mhm.
the world changes around you.
Well, a lot of
Um,
that negative talk, I think, comes from a place of fear, you know?
Absolutely.
So I've been there.
Absolutely.
How many of us have been there?
Ah, every one of us. And, I even use an acronym, because fear is really false evidence appearing real. And so when we can learn to just be observant of our thoughts and just say, yeah, like just be curious, not judgmental about our thoughts, but just be curious. Um, appreciate our thoughts, because it's really just our ego mind trying to protect us,
Our thoughts
keep
won't
us safe.
kill us. That's what my coach says to me all the time. Nothing's gonna happen with your thoughts.
Exactly. And we just say, thank you. Thank you, ego, for
Mhm.
trying to protect me. I don't agree with this. And, I tell my clients to say, bye, Felicia, not today.
I mean,
And
it's
then
good.
immediately throw in an affirmation that totally counteracts that.
Because you want to empower, you want to feel empowered. And so you don't want to be bogged down by all this fear and negative talk. And, it just weighs you down.
It
Um,
does. And you
mhm.
know what? I do want to make a point, because I think so many of us high achieving women, we don't even realize how negative we can be. Because I know for me, I
Oh,
was like,
I know.
I'm not a negative person. I'm a glass half full person. I always think of like, I'm always a positive person. People always see me laughing,
For
smiling. And I'm just
others,
like,
though, but for others, right?
well, the interesting thing is, I didn't feel like I had a lot of negative talk,
Mm,
because I didn't have self-talk that was like, you're horrible, like those weren't my thoughts. And so I
uh,
was like, well, I don't relate to this. But then, I did a challenge, which I challenge all my clients to do, is go 24 hours without complaining. And that was when I realized, oh my gosh, I am so negative. I can't even get through an hour. And so negative thoughts doesn't have to be like, you're stupid. Negative thoughts can just be pondering on things that aren't, you know, just complaining. It can be like when you're judging other people,
mhm,
even if they're not directed at you, it's still negativity. Because the reality is that the world we see is a mirror to ourselves. And so the things that we notice and respond to and have a reaction to, they mirror us in some way. It's either a part of ourselves that we hate, a part of ourselves that we love, a part of ourselves like we wish we could be more like. So even if you're critical to others and complaining about others, it's still a reflection of you. And
mhm.
so that was a big jump that I had to make and realize it's all negativity.
And I think that's part of the process too. I think the more that you work with coaching or even therapy, the more insight you have because I mean, I definitely recognize that I can be very negative and the thing that I always say is, "Oh my gosh, I have to do everything in this house." How many
Mhm.
times have we said that as women or moms or
Yes.
wives, you know? And I mean, I think part of it is recognizing it and it is a process. And so, like you mentioned earlier, we're not definitely not perfect and don't strive to be perfect. But I think recognizing those negative thoughts when they come up is really important. Um,
Absolutely.
so we are running out of time. I told you it'd be really fast.
It was.
But you mentioned your book, so I definitely want to hear a little bit more about your book and also how people can contact you if they want to find out more about your coaching services or all the interesting things that you have coming up.
Awesome. Well, they can go to my website to order the book or pre-order the book at unleashthehealingwithin.com. Again, unleashthehealingwithin.com. And that's actually the title of the book, Unleash the Healing Within, how to not allow things outside of you. I'm so sorry. The book is Unleash the Healing Within.
Unleash the
um,
Healing Within is your book. Got it.
Yes. Um, and it's great because I talk about 7 types of medicine. I think as doctors, we always go to medicines in pill bottles or medicines in needles, syringes.
Mhm.
But I talk about 7 types of other medicines, non-traditional medicines that have a huge impact on healing and that can heal every area of your life, with self-love being one of the most important. And so check me out, unleashthehealingwithin.com. You can also find out information about my different coaching programs, or if you want to see me in a health capacity, because I do have a holistic health practice as well, where I incorporate the energy practices for pain relief. You can connect with me on Facebook. My name, Mouslys LeBlanc, on Facebook. On Twitter, I'm LeBlanc underscore Mo. And Instagram, I'm Dr. underscore Mo underscore LeBlanc. Please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to connect.
Awesome. Dr. Mo, it was so much fun chatting with you. It's so exciting to have your book published as well and all the things that you're doing. I don't know how you're balancing all the things that you're doing, but it's very exciting. And I know that you and I will connect offline as well. So I will definitely leave all of the links as far as how to find you on my show notes and on the blog. And I will hopefully be able to release this on YouTube. So I'll also post the link to that as well. All right. Well, it
Thank
was
you so
nice
much.
chatting with you. All
Thank you, Dr. Dang.
right. Take care. Bye bye.